Most people think wealth has an age limit. They believe if it didn't happen in their 20s, the window is closed. But that belief is one of the most expensive lies adults carry into their 30s and 40s. In reality, this is the age when money finally starts to listen. If you stop copying fast success stories and start playing a smarter, longer game. Today, we're going to talk about why getting rich later isn't a disadvantage, why patience becomes a weapon after 30, and how time can still work for you when you use it correctly. Most people carry an invisible clock in their minds. It starts ticking early, loud in the 20s, then grows heavier in the 30s, and by the 40s it feels almost accusatory. This clock tells them that wealth is supposed to arrive early, that success has a deadline, and that missing it means the game is already lost. This belief is not only wrong, it is destructive because it forces people to rush decisions, copy paths that don't fit them, and abandon strategies that actually require maturity to work. Age is not a barrier to wealth. Impatience is. In early adulthood, energy is high, but clarity is low. Decisions are driven by speed rather than understanding. People chase outcomes without fully grasping systems. Mistakes made early often feel small because there is time to recover, but they also shape habits that linger. After 30 and 40, something changes. Experience adds weight to decisions. You have seen cycles repeat, promises fail, shortcuts collapse. This awareness is not a weakness, it is a filter. It removes noise. It makes you selective. Selectivity is one of the most underrated advantages in building wealth. Wealth is not built by doing many things quickly. It is built by doing a few things correctly for a long time. Younger years are often spent experimenting, trying, failing, restarting. That phase looks productive from the outside, but is often inefficient. Later years benefit from accumulated judgment. You don't need to try everything. You only need to avoid obvious mistakes and commit to what works. Avoiding mistakes may not feel exciting, but over time it creates a massive edge. There's also a psychological shift that happens with age. You stop needing to prove speed. You stop competing with stories that were never meant for you. This is powerful because comparison is expensive. It pushes people into timelines that don't match their resources or temperament. When you let go of comparison, you gain patience, and patience allows compounding to operate uninterrupted. Compounding does not reward brilliance. It rewards consistency and time. Another advantage of getting rich later is capital discipline. When resources are limited early, risk feels necessary. People gamble because they feel they have little to lose. Later, you understand the value of what you have built, even if it's modest. This understanding creates respect for capital. You begin to prioritize protection over excitement. This shift alone separates those who steadily build from those who repeatedly restart. Capital that survives has time to grow. Experience also improves your relationship with failure. Early failures feel personal and discouraging. Later failures feel informational. You extract lessons instead of identity damage. This matters because wealth creation is not a straight line. It involves periods of stagnation, doubt, and slow progress. Emotional resilience keeps you engaged during these phases. Those who quit early often weren't wrong, they were just impatient. There is a myth that starting later means having less time. What it really means is having better use of time. Focus increases with age. You understand what drains you and multiplies you. This focus reduces wasted effort. 10 focused years often outperform 20 scattered ones. Time is not just about duration, it's about quality of application. Mature focus compresses timelines in ways youthful energy cannot. Another overlooked advantage is income stability. As careers develop, cash flow often becomes more predictable. Predictability allows planning. Planning enables systems. Systems remove emotion from decisions. When decisions become systematic, consistency improves, and consistency is the foundation of long-term outcomes. Early volatility makes discipline harder. Later stability makes discipline sustainable. Age also improves your tolerance for boredom, which is essential. Wealth-building strategies that work are often boring. They require repeating sensible actions without constant stimulation. Younger minds crave novelty. Older minds appreciate reliability. This shift aligns perfectly with strategies that reward patience rather than excitement. Boredom, when embraced, becomes an asset. There is also wisdom in knowing what you don't want. Early ambition is broad and unfocused. Later ambition is refined. You are no longer chasing every opportunity. You are eliminating distractions. Each no protects energy for the few yes decisions that actually matter. This filtering effect accelerates progress by preventing dilution. The idea that wealth must come early is fueled by rare exceptions amplified into expectations. These stories ignore survivorship bias and context. They create pressure without providing a map. Real wealth is usually built quietly, later than advertised, by people who stayed consistent long after attention moved elsewhere. The absence of spotlight does not mean absence of progress. When you start seeing age as leverage instead of limitation, behavior changes. You stop rushing. You stop forcing outcomes. You begin aligning actions with long-term reality rather than short-term emotion. This alignment compounds. Each calm decision reinforces the next. Momentum builds not from speed, but from stability. The most important shift is internal. You stop measuring success by how fast something happens and start measuring it by how well it lasts. Longevity becomes the goal. Longevity favors those who have learned restraint, patience, and perspective. These traits are rarely strong early, but they deepen with time. Getting rich after 30 or 40 is not about catching up. It is about finally playing the right game. A game where experience reduces error, patience increases returns, and time is used intentionally rather than urgently. Once you stop racing against an imaginary clock, your decisions improve, your strategy simplifies, and your results become more predictable, because wealth does not care how old you are. It only responds to how consistently you apply sound principles over time. Youth is often praised as the ultimate advantage. Energy, speed, ambition, and fearlessness are celebrated as the ingredients of success. But what is rarely discussed is how inefficient raw energy can be without direction. Youth moves fast, but it moves blindly. Experience moves slower, but it moves accurately. And over long periods, accuracy compounds far more reliably than speed ever could. Experience is not just knowledge stored in memory. Why? It is judgment shaped by consequences. It is the ability to recognize patterns before they fully form, to sense danger before it becomes obvious, and to spot opportunity without being distracted by noise. These abilities are not taught quickly. They are earned through repetition, mistakes, reflection, and time spent observing outcomes. Each cycle adds a layer of understanding that cannot be rushed or copied. When people are young, they often mistake motion for progress. Doing more feels productive. Trying everything feels necessary. But most effort in early years is wasted on paths that were never aligned to begin with. This waste is not failure, it is tuition. Experience is built by paying that tuition repeatedly until the cost becomes unbearable and the lesson finally sticks. Once it does, behavior changes permanently. Experience compounds because it improves decision quality. One good decision made consistently outperforms many average decisions made quickly. Over time, fewer mistakes matter more than more actions. Avoiding one major error can be more valuable than making several small wins. Youth tends to chase upside, experience respects downside. That respect preserves resources, confidence, and momentum. Another overlooked aspect of experience is calibration. With time, expectations become realistic. You stop believing every opportunity is transformative and every setback is fatal. This emotional balance reduces overreaction. Overreaction is expensive. It leads to buying too late, selling too early, quitting too soon, or doubling down for the wrong reasons. Experience smooths emotional spikes, and emotional stability allows systems to work uninterrupted. Experience also changes how effort is allocated. Instead of spreading energy thin, it concentrates it where it matters most. You learn which actions move the needle and which only feel busy. This concentration creates leverage. Leverage is not about force, it is about placement. Small, well-placed actions repeated over time create outsized results. Youth often lacks the patience to identify these leverage points. There is also a shift in how risk is perceived. Youth often underestimates risk because consequences feel distant. Experience understands that recovery is not guaranteed. This does not create fear, it creates precision. Precision leads to better positioning. Better positioning allows time to do the heavy lifting. Time rewards those who remain intact long enough to benefit from it. Experience compounds socially as well. Relationships deepen. Networks become more meaningful. Trust replaces introduction. Access replaces cold starts. These advantages are invisible to outsiders but powerful in practice. Youth may have reach, but experience has credibility. Credibility opens doors that enthusiasm alone cannot. Over time, credibility becomes a form of capital. Another advantage of experience is learning efficiency. Early learning is slow because everything is new. Later learning accelerates because new information connects to existing frameworks. Patterns repeat across different contexts. What once took years to understand now takes months. This acceleration allows experienced individuals to adapt faster than expected, even in changing environments. Experience also reduces the need for external validation. Youth often seeks approval, recognition, or proof of progress. This creates dependency on feedback that may be misleading. Experience internalizes standards. Decisions are evaluated against principles rather than applause. This independence protects against trends, hype, and collective mistakes that often harm those who follow crowds. There is a misconception that experience makes people rigid. In reality, true experience makes people flexible. Rigidity comes from ego, not age. Experience teaches humility. It shows how often certainty was wrong in the past. This humility keeps the mind open, but not naive. It allows adaptation without panic and conviction without arrogance. Another compounding effect is patience with process. Experience understands that outcomes lag actions. Youth expects immediate feedback. When it doesn't arrive, motivation drops. Experience continues regardless of feedback, trusting the process because it has seen delayed rewards materialize before. This trust sustains effort during quiet periods when most people quit. Experience also refines goal setting. Early goals are often vague or borrowed. Later goals are specific, personal. Specific goals guide behavior more effectively. They reduce distraction and increase commitment. When goals align with values and temperament, consistency improves naturally. Consistency is the silent partner of compounding. There's also a physical and mental aspect. While youth has energy, experience has endurance. Endurance matters more in long games. Short bursts win sprints, not marathons. Wealth building, mastery, and meaningful progress are marathons. They reward those who can continue through boredom, doubt, and slow progress without losing direction. Experience compounds because it stacks. Each lesson builds on the previous one. Mistakes become reference points. Successes become templates. Over time, decision-making becomes almost intuitive, not because of instinct, but because of accumulated data processed subconsciously. This intuition is not magic. It is compressed experience. The belief that success must come early creates unnecessary despair. It causes people to abandon strategies just as experience begins to become valuable. The irony is that many quit precisely when they are most prepared to succeed. They confuse delayed results with failure, unaware that the groundwork is complete and only time is missing. Experience does not guarantee success, but it dramatically improves the odds. It narrows the range of outcomes. It reduces catastrophic errors and increases the likelihood of steady progress. Youth offers possibility. Experience offers probability. Probability is what compounds. When you recognize that experience accelerates outcomes rather than delaying them, the pressure eases. You stop racing imaginary timelines and start building durable systems. Each year becomes an asset rather than a liability. Instead of asking whether it's too late, you ask how to apply what you know more consistently. The most powerful advantage of experience is perspective. Perspective reveals that progress is uneven, that setbacks are normal, and that persistence outperforms brilliance. With perspective, you stop reacting and start positioning. And positioning, applied patiently, allows time and compounding to work together, quietly converting lived experience into leverage that grows stronger with each passing year. As life moves forward, something subtle but powerful begins to happen to the way decisions are made. The endless list of options that once felt exciting starts to feel heavy. Possibilities no longer energize, they exhaust. This shift is not a loss of ambition, it is the beginning of clarity. When time becomes more valuable, the cost of poor decisions becomes clearer, and the desire to simplify grows naturally. This is where fewer decisions begin to outperform more activity. In earlier stages of life, doing more feels like progress. Trying everything seems necessary to discover what works, but most actions taken in that phase are exploratory, not strategic. Exploration has value, but it is inefficient by design. It burns energy, time, and attention. Later, when experience has filtered out what doesn't work, the need to explore fades. What remains is a smaller set of actions with a much higher probability of success. This concentration is not limiting, it is liberating. Fewer decisions reduce noise. Noise is one of the biggest enemies of progress because it scatters attention. Each additional choice demands mental energy. Each fork in the road increases the chance of hesitation, regret, or second guessing. When choices are reduced, focus deepens. Focus allows effort to compound instead of reset. Compounding does not require intensity, it requires continuity. Continuity is easier to maintain when decisions are simple and repeatable. There is also a hidden benefit to fewer decisions. Consistency improves automatically. When you commit to a small number of well-understood actions, execution becomes smoother. You stop negotiating with yourself every day. The friction of choice disappears. This reduces emotional fatigue, which is often mistaken for lack of discipline. In reality, many people fail not because they are undisciplined, but because they are overwhelmed by too many options. Better decisions are rarely dramatic. They are often boring, repetitive, and unremarkable in isolation. Their power comes from repetition over time. A single well-chosen action repeated consistently can outperform a dozen clever ideas that are applied inconsistently. This is why simplicity scales so effectively. Complexity feels intelligent, but it often hides fragility. Simple systems endure stress better because there are fewer points of failure. Another advantage of fewer decisions is error reduction. Every decision carries the possibility of being wrong. Reducing the number of decisions reduces the number of opportunities to make mistakes. This does not mean avoiding action, it means avoiding unnecessary action. Protecting against large errors matters more than chasing small wins. Over time, avoiding big mistakes contributes more to progress than making frequent minor gains. As people mature, they also become better at recognizing asymmetry. Not all decisions matter equally. Some choices have outsized consequences, while others are trivial. Early on, it is difficult to distinguish between the two. Everything feels important. Later, experience reveals which decisions deserve attention and which can be automated or ignored. This hierarchy of decisions allows energy to be allocated where it actually matters. There is a psychological relief that comes with narrowing focus. It removes the pressure to constantly optimize. Optimization is exhausting because it assumes there is always a better option waiting to be found. This mindset keeps people in perpetual motion without commitment. Commitment, not optimization, is what allows long-term strategies to work. When you stop searching for better and start executing what is good enough consistently, progress becomes inevitable. Fewer decisions also improve patience. When you are not constantly switching strategies, you give time a chance to work. Many good ideas fail not because they are flawed, but because they are abandoned too early. Time is an amplifier, but only for those who stay put long enough. Reducing decision-making increases the likelihood of staying the course through periods when results are slow or invisible. Another overlooked benefit is confidence. Constant decision-making breeds doubt. Each new choice reopens the question of whether you are on the right path. Fewer decisions create stability. Stability builds confidence, not through optimism, but through familiarity. Familiarity reduces fear. When actions become routine, fear loses its grip and consistency becomes easier to sustain. As decisions become fewer, standards rise. You become more selective about what earns your attention. This selectivity improves quality across the board. Relationships become deeper. Work becomes more meaningful. Effort becomes more intentional. Saying no becomes a form of progress rather than a loss. Each refusal protects the few commitments that actually matter. There's also a compounding effect on learning. When you focus on fewer areas, feedback becomes clearer. You can see what works and what doesn't more easily because variables are limited. This accelerates improvement. Instead of scattered lessons across many pursuits, you gain deep insight in a few. Depth outperforms breadth in long-term outcomes. The modern world encourages constant choice, endless information, endless options, endless opinions. This environment rewards those who can simplify without becoming rigid. Simplification is not about ignoring reality. It is about prioritizing what moves the needle. Those who master this skill gain an advantage that is difficult to replicate because it is rooted in restraint rather than speed. As time goes on, the value of mental peace becomes more apparent. Fewer decisions create space for thinking, reflection, and long-term planning. This space is where better judgment forms. Judgment is the quiet force behind sustained success. It cannot be rushed or outsourced. It grows when the mind is not consumed by trivial choices. The idea that success requires doing more is deeply ingrained but often incorrect. Doing less when chosen wisely can be far more powerful. Each eliminated decision removes friction. Each protected routine adds momentum. Momentum does not come from bursts of activity, but from uninterrupted motion in the same direction. When you look back, progress often appears obvious in hindsight. What is missed is how W decisions actually mattered. Most outcomes trace back to a small number of choices applied consistently. Recognizing this changes behavior. You stop chasing novelty and start protecting the few actions that work. This approach favors those who are willing to resist distraction and embrace repetition. It rewards patience over urgency and depth over variety. Over time, the gap widens between those who do many things occasionally and those who do a few things relentlessly. The latter build results that look sudden from the outside but are the product of long periods of quiet consistency driven by the power of fewer, better decisions applied again and again, while others exhaust themselves choosing what to do next.